There, folks. Today we're going to talk about a very interesting thing that's happening in Switzerland. There's a movement in Switzerland for Switzerland to switch to something I call GMI, for Guaranteed Minimum Income. The idea would be that every Swiss citizen, every single one of them, would get 2,500 Swiss francs a month from the government. Period. That's it. Everyone gets it. Now that's about $2,800 in Canadian currency as of today. But don't be fooled. That it sounds like a lot. I could live pretty well on $2,800 Canadian, but it's not as good as it sounds because Switzerland is the third most expensive place to live in the world. So that's not quite as exciting as it sounds. It's basically enough for an okay apartment, reasonable food, rent, utilities, etc. But the idea really intrigues me because I've had the idea for a long time. I had no idea anyone would actually try it. I always figured it would be one of my theoretical capitalism ideas that just never happened in the real world. The idea would be that this would really shift the balance of power to the employee rather than the employer. If everybody has a guarantee of not a wonderful standard of living, but a basic standard of living, then employers are really going to have to work in order to convince people to go to work for them. But there's other benefits as well. For one thing, from an employer's point of view, granted they have to work harder to convince people to come and do work for 8 hours a day. On the other hand, in my mind at least, I don't think this is what the Swiss are contemplating, but in my mind anyway, GMI, Guaranteed Minimum Income, would come with either an abolition of the minimum wage or at least a radical readjustment of it. Because you don't have to worry about paying people a, quote, living wage, unquote, anymore because the government has that covered. Say that, just to pull some numbers out of the air, say that the guaranteed minimum income was the equivalent of $10 an hour. And you are currently, before GMI goes in, paying your employees $12 an hour. Well, now you only have to pay them $2 an hour. Imagine what a huge boon to business that would be. And that's just to break even. I mean, what I really like about this idea is it would truly mean that the market decided what exactly the employees get. It would leave things wide open. Maybe employers would end up having to pay half of what they did before rather than, the equivalent. Maybe more, maybe less. But the point is, everybody would be okay, no matter what. The guy who's spearheading this movement in Switzerland, and who's gathered like 100,000 signatures, which is a lot in a not all that populous country, it means that nobody is subject to the tyranny of an employer, because if that employer decides to fire them, they don't have a way to make a living anymore. The living part is covered. People would then go to work for a lot of the other reasons why people go to work rather than just money. Say, because they want to contribute to the community, because they want to be part of something bigger than themselves, because they have professional ambitions, because they want to climb the totem pole of success, because they want the recognition of their peers. There's a lot of reasons for why people go to work. Money is just there in our current society because it's necessary. But think of how many jobs pay more than what is strictly needed to survive. I mean, if it was just about survival, everyone would be happy working at McDonald's. No, there's a lot more to employment. Human beings actually want to work. We just seem to have forgotten that. Or maybe we never knew, I don't know. An additional benefit to GMI is that it completely eliminates the welfare system. There's no need for it anymore. Everybody gets the $2,500 a month. There's no means testing. There's no hectoring people to do mandatory job interviews. There's no anything. You just send that out to everybody, period. So, one of the little dirty little secrets of the welfare system is that, generally speaking, only about 30% of the money is actually spent on that system actually goes to the people who are receiving it, and the other 75% is administrative overhead, because we have all these rules and petty little concerns and things like that, and paternalistic desires towards people on welfare that require a bunch of bureaucrats and a lot of paperwork. Well, poof, gone, no longer a worry. And personally, I don't particularly care if the very small minority of people who are making like ridiculous amounts of money also get this money. I really don't care. In the grand scheme of things, it won't matter. Another good thing about it is that it establishes a very sincere and quantitative form of equality. Everybody gets the same amount no matter what. And then they can decide what they want to do with it. Now, the person who wrote the article I got this news from, despite largely being a cranky libertarian, did make a few decent points. Like, we have to ask exactly how popular would not working become under this system. Because, of course, that $2,500 a month has to come from somewhere. Now, my guess is not working is really just not that popular an option. Like I said, human beings work for a lot of reasons. And money's only one of them. Heck, just desire for a decent standard of living is a major one. You know, something more than the bare minimum. So I don't think it would suddenly become a runaway problem of people going, wait a minute, fuck working. No. Especially if you're in the majority middle class. I mean, this is not enough for a middle class living in Switzerland. And you're not going to be comfortable just sitting there and living off your $2,500 a month. But it's still a valid concern, you know. So I'm encouraged the Swiss are considering this idea. I hope they go for it. Not only because I think it's probably a good idea, but I'm very interested in sort of the results of the experiment. There's going to be a vote on it, a public vote. Although when exactly that's going to happen has yet to be determined, but I can't imagine the Swiss people not going for it. Just on a basic level, it sounds good. What? I vote for this and I get 2,500 francs a month no matter what? Sign me up. I hope it works out well for the Swiss. I've never been able to totally convince myself that GMI is a good idea because I keep feeling like there's some kind of hidden pitfall that I don't know enough economics to understand. But still, talk about something that would be the opposite of trickle-down economics. I consider that pump-up economics. You start from the bottom, you make sure the money goes to the bottom, and then if the rich do the right things to keep consumers happy, it flows up to them. And from then it can trickle down, maybe. But you know that the average person is taken care of. You're not just pumping money up to the top and going, I'm sure some of it will go down to some people and whatever. So those are my thoughts on the Swiss trying GMI, folks. I'd love to know what you think about the idea. To me it sounds pretty keen, but I'd be interested to know if you can think of a disadvantage that I haven't. That's it for me for today, folks. Talk to you later.
"99% of us is normal."